Hey everyone, it's time for another live look at the astrology. My name is Katie Sweetman, and this is your look at the astrology for August 29th through September 4th, 2022. This is a special doing this from my parents' house edition. So I apologize for probably tragic lighting, tragic audio. But that's why I'm a little bit late, and I kind of feel like Mercury retrograde is around the corner. And if you know me, I'm not one that typically gets a little into, let's say, the cultural narrative of Mercury retrograde. But I think because it's Virgo season, and Virgo season is ruled by Mercury, and we have Mars in Gemini, that maybe this might be a Mercury retrograde to pay a little bit more attention to. But that's next week. We'll sort of set things up going into next week for this Mercury retrograde in Libra. Again, I'm sorry for being a little bit late. Mic wouldn't work. Had to figure out how to make the lighting look not terrible. But thank you all for joining me live. And if you're watching live, as always, do say hello. My name is Katie Sweetman again, and we gather every week to talk about the astrology. I work under the name Empowering Astrology, and normally we do this from headquarters in New Jersey, just right outside New York City, but today we're doing it in Maryland. So it's sort of the last of the holiday season here in the United States, at least, and I hope you all are enjoying the very last of summer. And for those that are in the northern hemisphere, or the southern hemisphere, sorry, I know a fair bit of you do watch from Australia and New Zealand. I feel like I'm actually not in the closet, believe it or not. And I was trying to figure, I know I'm from Maryland too, but I've been in New York City area for 17 years. So I feel like at this point, it's it's I've become a New Yorker. But yeah, I'm like, how do I set this up so it doesn't look terrible? And this was, believe it or not, the least terrible of the options, that also allowed for some sense of privacy. So if you hear a dog barking in the background, that's my dog. He's probably like, where I see Gaithersburg. I'm actually not that far. I mean, I'm actually from not that far from Gaithersburg. I'm from a place called Olney, Maryland. It's not where I am right now. But yeah, I'm in the closet right now. No, I'm actually sort of in the corner of a room that could somehow give a sense of not terrible backdrop with terrible artwork. Sorry, mom and dad. But let's talk some astrology. Let's just sort of recap from last week. We had a Virgo new moon just a couple of days ago on August 27th. So we went to Virgo season the beginning of last week. Then we had the Virgo new moon just a few days ago. So this means that we're now in a new lunar month, and this lunar month is through the lens of Virgo. And I gave you hopefully my little ode to Virgo, a sign that doesn't always get its fair due. And for me, and maybe this is a good segue to my Saturn masterclass that I'm going to be teaching in September, but every sign in the zodiac has its own function, and it has a necessary function, and each sign builds upon one another. And the zodiac is the wheel of life. And Virgo has this very important role to act as the sign of operations. We need Virgo. Virgo talks about the systems, the small systems that our life runs on, as compared to Aquarius, which is the large systems that our life runs on. And so we all need systems, whether it's the systems like a schedule, or a system that helps our life have the best health and wellness, hopefully getting some fresh air, eating our vegetables, brushing our teeth, but also systems of like learning and organization, and using that Virgo editorial eye to sort of say, okay, this goes here, this goes there. And I'm not a Virgo, I just play one on television. My joke is, my mom was she's not alive anymore, she was a Virgo, and I guess maybe I picked up a lot of traits from her. But I also have Saturn in Virgo, North Node in Virgo. So the Virgo part of me is just like, how could we not work out not looking like I'm in a closet. But Virgo is a wonderful sign, and it doesn't always get its fair due. And this is the lunar month for us to really get into the details of life. Come back to the systems that our life runs, whether those small systems. Virgo, do keep in mind that Saturn is still in Aquarius. It'll be in Aquarius till next year. I realize we're just focusing on Virgo season, but here's a little fun fact, and maybe this is a little bit of some mental gymnastics, but Virgo is the sixth sign, and Aquarius is Virgo's sixth sign. Hopefully that made sense. So what does this tell us about Virgo? It says that Virgo actually, the sixth sign of Virgo is Aquarius, and how Virgo really masters and excels these systems of life, health, and wellness. But this is a time for us to sort of pick up on that energy of Saturn in Aquarius. It's not going to be in Aquarius for that much longer. I think 6 more months at this point, almost 6-7 months, and really get back to the things that we need to get back to. Projects, making sure things are perfect. I put that in air quotes because sometimes, the joke that I make with clients who have a lot of Virgo energy, it's like Virgo's level of perfection is mythical. It sets this high bar that nobody can ever achieve. And so sometimes Virgo has to be, that's where the Pisces side, the duality comes in. Virgo has to let go and sort of let go and let God, Pisces, and sort of, hope and pray that, it's perfect enough, or that it will never be as perfect as the divine, but to allow whatever divinity that can come through us, hopefully, to be able to create something that is organized and perfect. But I think perfection as refinement. So how do we go into this new lunar month with a sense of refinement, refining our lives, refining a system, refining our health, refining our work, and showing up? And that's another thing about Virgo. It's a sign that's, it's an earth sign. It has that dependability that we see in the other two the other two earth signs of Taurus and Capricorn. It's like, yes, really being in the the dependability of earth, the stability of earth. And that's the thing, as we come out of some pretty intense astrology in the earlier part of August, is that maybe we need Virgo season to really put things back into place, or honestly to reorganize things. Maybe August astrology was a little bit of a hurricane or a storm, and now we have to go take inventory. We have to see what's still intact, what's working, what's not working, or we can bring in that energy of refinement into our lives. But we have this strong energy that's happening throughout Virgo season, although it doesn't have the fireworks of, let's say, Leo season with all the sort of the energy that's coming in preparation for the eclipses. But Virgo season, it picks up on Mars up in, I say up because Gemini is Virgo's 10th sign. So there's a sense of command as we go into this Virgo season. It really does put an emphasis on responsibility and sort of the higher bar that we all need to set for ourselves, and ambition, and sort of where we taking this Virgo practical energy, this Virgo refinement, pay attention to the details. Hopefully you can't hear my dog Miguel, but how do we apply this to our lives? And Mars will go retrograde. I'm getting ahead of myself at the end of October, and it will be in Gemini, by the way, for 7 months at this point. But this Virgo season is really pushing us to take command, to get on top of things, to really focus on our duties and responsibilities. And where this Virgo season really puts its emphasis on is Mercury and Libra. That Mercury in Libra talks about resources. So this is a Virgo season, a Virgo new moon, lunar month, to really focus on the resources of our life. What can we rely upon? Apparently not really good lighting. What can we rely upon? What are the financial resources? What are the physical resources? What's our sense of value? And as we get ready for Mercury retrograde next week. I believe Mercury is going to turn retrograde at 8 degrees of Libra. This will be on the 9th of September, so that's next week. But we're going to have to go back and reevaluate sort of the choices that we make, the things that we buy, the things that we invest in, the things that we own, the things that we think are valuable. Are they really valuable? And maybe the systems that our life runs on, and maybe we need to sort of be like, is this the best system? Is this actually going to support stability and growth in my life? So these are sort of the big things as we go in this next week. And so this is the segue into my Saturn masterclass. So the early registration is ending on September 1st. You can still, of course, register up until September 17th. That's when we start the masterclass. And somebody asked me a really good question, and they're like, well, because I don't want this to come across as that this is a course that just teaches you about Saturn through the 12 signs. No. So somebody was asking, well, can I just do the part that is for my Saturn? Like, this is using the framework of the zodiac, which is the wheel of life, which talks about the journey, the start of the journey, Aries, and the completion of the journey, Pisces, and how you need each sign to build upon one another in order to get to Pisces. You can't get to Pisces without going through all of the steps. And there's a process, especially when you get to the energies of Scorpio, where you have to be tested. Everything that you're building, you have to be tested. You have to go within. So this is a masterclass that isn't teaching you about Saturn. This is per se. This is a masterclass that's giving you a framework, Saturn, that exists naturally within the zodiac for you to find that energy within yourself to build upon, to open up, and then to use these awarenesses and these openings and these transformations to then apply that to your own Saturn. So the Saturn Masterclass, it's going to be 12 weeks. We're going to meet weekly, and it's meant to be transformational. And there will be the part where you and I will have an assessment call. We'll also have the group portion. And how do you take the wisdom and knowledge of your own astrology and apply it to what we're learning in this group setting? So I really hope that you can join me. I've had a few signups at this point. It sounds like we're going to have a really great class. It's for all levels. It's not just a class to learn about astrology and Saturn. This is where we're taking the information part, but we're going beyond it. This is a good, Mars is in Gemini. Gemini is about information, ideas, and those information and ideas build upon. In Virgo takes those ideas and starts to connect them to things. It starts to sort and organize. And then we get to the next mutable sign, Sagittarius, which takes these ideas that we built a framework around, Virgo, and now we start to build wisdom and knowledge. Now there's cognitive wisdom and knowledge with Sagittarius, but you need Pisces to build true knowledge. And Pisces talks about the wisdom and knowledge that we've not only integrated within ourselves, and it's opened up spaces within us, but this is wisdom and knowledge that we can transmit to others. This is why, the whole zodiac is this beautiful systems, Virgo, Aquarius, in order for us to understand ourselves, understand reality, understand creation, and understand how do we build perfection, refinement, transformation through the 12 zodiac signs. So that's my spiel about the Saturn Masterclass, and I really hope that you can join me. Again, we already have a few people signed up, and this is going to be starting on September 17th, but early registration ends on September 1st. So do email me, empoweringastrology@gmail.com. If you have questions, you can go to the show notes. The link to the masterclass is there. You can even go to my website and to get the information on the masterclass. But I think it's going to be a really powerful experience, and for you to start to see that framework within yourself and to see your own blueprint. That's the thing I love about Saturn. That's why I keep talking endlessly about Saturn, is that it is the blueprint for your life. It is not trying to run you into the ground, although sometimes it feels like that. But it does give you a framework for success, believe it or not. And so that's why I'm a huge Saturn fan, but I get it. Saturn's not always the easiest planet in our astrology, but it is one of the most important planets. But how about the astrology of this week? We're actually light on astrology this week, which seems kind of odd because it seemed like last week we had the new moon, we had Uranus turned retrograde in Taurus. The week before that, we had a bunch of things around the nodes. So this week, so this is for August 29th through September 4th, 2022. This week we've got, we have Mercury opposite Jupiter, which is really the dominant aspect for this week. And it doesn't, it's not exact until September 2nd, which is Friday. So as we go into Monday, August 29th, we're just a couple of days off the new moon. And I wanted to highlight this for you all because the new moon energies are the energies of conception. The new moon puts us in correlation with the energies of Aries. Why is that? Because Aries is the start of the zodiac. The new moon is the start of the lunar month, and Mars, conception, action, to Taurus, fertility, and that how that conception comes into the fertility of Taurus. So it starts to build something, and that's where we get into the energies of Gemini, etc., etc. However, this week we're in the energies of the new moon. So what seeds do you want to plant? Because it's a Virgo season, these are typically seeds that are Virgo in nature. How do I serve? How do I help other people? How do I show up? How do I be reliable? What's a project that I want to start? How do I want to come back to my life, the physicality of my life, my health and wellness, and refine it, make it better? Of course, that means different things to different people. Virgo puts us into the energies of purity, this idea that we all need to purify. Now, that word can be a little heavy sometimes, but I mean that in the best possible way. How do we purify our lives? Virgo is the virgin, Virgo, but I always point to the German translation of Virgo, which is Jungfrau, which just means young woman. It's the maiden, and the maiden is an archetype, and this is a time for us to sort of come into that energy of the maiden. Doesn't matter who you are, and sort of that newness of life, and sort of the potential of life, which then we go into the energies of relationship and connection when we go into Libra season. So this week we have the Virgo moon, and then we go into the Libra moon, and the Libra moon is picking up on the energies of Venus. Venus is at the end of Leo this week. It's just had a square to Uranus. It did that, I think it was the 27th, it had that square to Uranus. And so there might be some little bit of shakeups or sort of questioning of what's of value, or what we need, or what we think we need, or what we think we need to invest in. The beginning of next week, September 5th, Venus will go into Virgo. So this is Venus's last run through Leo. Then we get into the middle of the week, the moon goes into Scorpio. And the more that we get closer to eclipse season, this will be October, November, I realize we're not that far away. I'm going to start to point out when the moon is either in Taurus, the moon is in Scorpio, because these are the two signs of the eclipses. And these eclipses, they're sort of talking about stability, security, value, worth, investment, Taurus, and our relationship with our physical world, but also having to face what's within us, our fears, our insecurities, our shadow. Scorpio, our themes around intimacy, trust, vulnerability, sexuality. Scorpio. So yeah, these, the moon going into Scorpio in the middle of this week starts to get us ready for an eclipse in Scorpio. That will be on October 25th. We're going to have Scorpio new moon. If your birthday is on the 25th, plus or minus a day, it's going to be a powerful new year for you. But I'm getting way ahead of myself. Then we get towards the end of this week, we have Mars in Gemini. It's picking up on a support, a sextile from Jupiter. And Mars, again, it's in this position to the sun right now, which is about our future, looking out into the world, our duties and responsibilities, our ambitions, and we get a little boost from Jupiter. So this might give us some opportunities, perhaps even opportunities in our professional life, or even opportunities around our ambitions. Then we get into later this week, Mercury opposes Jupiter. To be fair, we're feeling this all this week. Mercury is in Libra. Again, this is about a Virgo season that's very concentrated and focused on money, income, value, worth, investment, stability, security. Kind of sounds like Taurus keywords. Yes, Mercury is in the second house, the second sign from the sun. Opposite Jupiter. So Mercury opposite Jupiter, an opposition isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's not like two things are opposed. There can be a sense of something is exaggerated, something is outsized. So maybe the things that we're saying, the things that we're communicating are big, are bold, they are outsized. Jupiter is the planet of faith, truth, but it's also the planet of inspiration. Jupiter opens up our eyes to the world beyond ourselves. So whether it's you're looking up towards the heavens to actually see the stars physically, or you're even looking up, and I mean this metaphorically, to see what's out there, even to think about the zodiac as the wheel of life and this beautiful framework that exists inside of us, but also exists outside of us. How do you see the world differently? And maybe that sense of opposition is trying to pull and push us to look outward in the world. Maybe the things that we are saying, Mercury, they're touching on themes of value and worth, even conviction. What do we stand for? What's our truth? What are our beliefs? And maybe even having to make a leap of faith this week. But sometimes when Mercury is opposite Jupiter, there's a tendency to say things and maybe embellish, tell tall stories, tall tales. Yeah, tell tall tales. Say that fast 3 times. So what is it that maybe we are exaggerating, that we are embellishing, that we are sort of making it bigger than it is? And maybe if something is coming up for you, maybe it is bigger than it really is. It's, this is why you can't say like opposition is always two things, diametrically opposed, because an opposition helps us to understand two things in astrology: that two signs that oppose each other, that maybe on paper they are different, but they complement each other. They are polarity. Libra and Aries, they are a relational polarity in astrology. So maybe the things that we are talking about, the leaps of faith, have to do with relationship. They have to do with how we connect to one another, the investments that we make in one another, and even the investments that we make in our relationships. So there's a couple of different ways that we can look at this Mercury opposite Jupiter, but really pay attention to what's happening this week, even if it's sort of in the background, because Mercury does turn retrograde next week on the 9th. It turns retrograde again at 8 degrees of Libra. So whatever's happening this week, we are revisiting it when Mercury goes retrograde. So let's look at the astrology for each of the 12 signs. Here is your friendly reminder to listen for your sun sign, listen for your rising sign, listen for both. And this is where I say, like, you get good information for both. Just by the way, you do need to know your exact birth time to be able to know the rising sign. But those two bits of information, they can overlap and they can overlay and they can give you a richer portrait of what is happening in your life. A little side note: there was somebody on my Instagram channel, or my Instagram account, who I guess was trying to fight me. There are 2 ways to look at the sky. One is like literally looking at the stars, and this is what's called sidereal astrology. Sidereal astrology says that the planet is here. I can physically see it. tropical Western astrology. This is a symbolic system. It's a fixed system. So, for example, the sun is in Virgo right now in tropical Western astrology, but in sidereal astrology, it's still in Leo. I know it sounds confusing. I get it. Whatever way you want to look at astrology, that is up to you. This is a tropical astrology, a Western astrology way of me seeing things, and it's the way that I see things, because for me it works. Hopefully for you all it works. And it's a beautiful symbolic system. I get it. There's the literalness of the sky, and how some constellations are much bigger and some constellations of the zodiac are much more narrow, but it's a symbolic system. It's connecting to something that is outside of the physicality and the literalness of life, yet at the same time it's something that we are living. And so this is why I'm like, astrology is just energy. It's just telling you what time it is. And yes, there's the literalness of the fact that it's a new moon, or the moon is here in the sky, but and it shifts, and that's why astrology, what's called sidereal astrology, which is what the Vedic and Indian system use, accounts for the changes in the sky. But anyway, that's just me being on my soapbox for a moment. If you're coming in late, yes, I'm not in a closet. I'm in a corner. I'm visiting my dad, who actually is not well. So any prayers would be well received. But anyway, let's go through each of the 12 zodiac signs and sort of check in where this Virgo season, this Virgo new moon, and maybe even this Mercury retrograde is going to show up for you. So if you are an Aries, so Aries, for you, Virgo season is time for you to sort of sit in the command seat of your life. And hey, you are an Aries, so you're typically a sign that is self-motivated, self-directed, and easy to go after what you want. But this is the season for you to get really into the details of life, the really practical details of life. And this means really, and I'm using this word, audit. I know that's kind of an intense word, but audit your life. What's working? What's not working? What's the system that's working? What's the system that's not working? How is your health and wellness? And with Mercury in your relationship sign right now, there's sort of this sense of the relational systems in your life. How do you show up for people? How do people show up for you? This is I think a Mercury retrograde that's trying to highlight the imbalance of relationship. And maybe with the energy of Virgo, it can go a couple of ways. Either you're overextending yourself with relationships, you're taking too much on. It's you're sort of at the beck and call of other people, and maybe that's not reciprocated. Or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe this is the season where you have to show up more for other people. It's less about what you need and having to navigate and even cater to the needs of other people. So this is a time for you to really look at relationships, to look at service, to look at value, to look at health and wellness, and how you show up on a day-to-day level. Sorry about my dog, if you can hear that. Taurus. So Taurus, Virgo season for you, in a way, is for you to get back to you. It's been a little bit of a rough time for the fixed signs, and perhaps even a rough time for you, Taurus. Maybe you are absolutely fine. I really hope so. But this is a season for you to get back to what feeds you. What is your passion? What is your joy? What makes you you? We all have something inside us that makes us us. And so this is the season for you to focus on, whether it's something as simple as hobbies or your talents or your gifts, your creativity, or really getting back to the essence of who you are. Taurus, you're an earth sign. Virgo season is also an earth sign. And so this is about the practicality of life, and maybe even getting back grounded in life after a lot of the ups and downs of August. The other thing to keep in mind, Taurus, is that Venus, which is your planet, it's rounding out its time in Leo. So this has also been a time about home and family, and maybe even having to navigate some bumpy stuff, some bumpy emotional stuff last week as Venus came up to a square to Uranus. But then again, to go back to the fact that this is Virgo season for you, Mercury is in your sixth. This is a time for you to take that creative energy that's inside of you and put it into something. So maybe you're starting a new creative project. Maybe it's something that it really lights you up, lifts you up, and sort of gives you passion and joy. And that's the thing about earth energy, is that it can't always just be a duty. Like there has to be some love in it. Otherwise it just completely crushes you. It's just earth. Remember, fire signs come before the earth signs. Give that spark of life and passion to the practical things that you are doing in your life. But take care, Taurus. Especially as you come out of Leo season, maybe a lot of emotional buttons got pressed, but you are sort of rounding the corner as you prepare for the next eclipse season, which we will talk about in the next coming weeks. Gemini. So Gemini, Virgo season is your time to return home. It's about your home environment. It's about your household, home and family, the past, even the duties and responsibilities that you have in your home environment. So with that new moon, maybe this was a natural time for you to make a change in your house. Maybe you even are thinking about moving. This new moon highlights Mercury in what's called your fifth sign. And how do you there's sort of this thing happening about home and family, but really your emotional core. Because Virgo creates the bottom, like the base of your astrology. And this is a time for you to really get in touch with the things that actually feed you, actually support you. And with Mercury over in Libra, this is about your creative talents, your gifts, your abilities, and how you nurture yourself and how you nurture your creative talents, gifts, and abilities. And this is something that I say to my clients, where I'm like, I talk about talents and people are like, oh, I'm not artistic, Katie. I'm like, there's many ways to be creative. Creativity is when you take something inside of you and you put it into something. It could be a spreadsheet, it could be a baby, it could be a creative project. It just doesn't have to necessarily be artistic. But Gemini, really take care of yourself. You've got Mars in your sign. It's going to be in your sign for a while, so you've got a lot of energy, a lot of motivation, a lot of power. And what are you putting that towards? Cancer. So Virgo season for you is time for you to get back to your voice. It's about thinking, writing, listening, learning, through the lens of Virgo, which is more critical thinking than anything, but it's typically a busy sign for you, Cancer. And maybe there's a lot of movement and travel, trips, maybe even movement in your local environment, but this is a time for you to really focus on information in your life. Maybe on a surface level, you're taking a class. Maybe this is just kind of looking at the role of information and ideas in your life. This Virgo season points in Mercury over to Libra. So there's something about the home environment, your living situation, family, parents, the past, memories, emotional core. And maybe there's a need to sort and to organize or even to communicate something that is coming from a very deep and emotional place. If something is shifting and changing in your home or family or your home environment, do keep in mind that Mercury will go retrograde next week. That doesn't mean that everything has to grind to a halt. It just means that it's not an active period for you, it's a receptive period for you. And I think that this might be a Mercury retrograde period where a lot of things that are deeply buried or maybe you don't typically communicate have to be communicated. And maybe it's just for your deeper emotional well-being. And you've heard me say this, Cancer, but this is a time where this is a lot of heavy emotional energy. This has just been over the last 2-3 years. I know it's such a long time, but this could be a time when you're really taking some practical action to take care of yourself, to take care of your emotional talents, your emotional life, and to talk about the things that you need to talk about. Leo. Leo, my fixed sign. So we've left your birthday season. Hopefully the dust is starting to settle. There was just a lot of stuff, a lot of astrology going on with your birthday season. So Virgo season for you is, it's like, okay, the party's over. Sorry, Leo. The party's over. Like, how do you now take all that energy, all those new ideas, that new vision you have for the coming year, and you make it real? You put it into something. You sort of invest in things. You invest in time. But this is also about money, income, your material stability, your material security. And with Mercury in what's called your third sign, maybe this is a time where you have to move, you have to hustle, you have to maybe look at earning living in different ways, being creative, being flexible. But also this could be a way for you to to move, to change, to sell things. So there's a little bit of some movement in your life right now, Leo. Venus is coming to the end of Leo this week. You sort of had this little boost, a little pep in your step with Venus and Leo. It will go into Virgo next week. So this again will start to focus on what's a value in your life. And value, I realize, is a really broad word because this does include self-worth and the things that this isn't a time to take money for granted, or income, or resources. It's to be very deliberate. That's the Virgo energy is a very deliberate energy, but at the same time getting creative, getting flexible, doing the things that we all have to do, getting a little bit of hustle going, and maybe this includes buying and selling, and things that are happening in your local environment. Virgo. Happy birthday, Virgo. So if you had a birthday just on the 27th, maybe plus or minus a day, it's a new birthday season for you. It's like the 12 months that are ahead of you are really through the energy of this new moon. And this new moon was so much about faith and truth and meaning. And so maybe, Virgo, you're feeling a little bit philosophical or even existential as you go into this new birthday season. What does it all mean? Like, what am I trying to achieve as I go into the next 11 and 12 months? So Virgo, it's a time for you to come back to the things that really matter. It's your personal reset for the year. Of course, it's your birthday season. Happy birthday to all my Virgos. My mom was a Virgo, so it's a sign that I have a lot of affinity for. But with Mercury, your planet in Libra, there's a lot of movement, and it's about relationships and connection. But at the same time, it's relationship and connections that are truly of value to you. Somebody that's in my life right now, it's like, why have 100 pennies when you can have 4 quarters? It's like, why have all these things in your life if it's only worth a penny? And maybe, or whatever your local currency is. So it's like looking at the things in your life and being very deliberate. Virgo energy is very deliberate, and deliberate with how you're investing your money, your time, and your energy into things, but also being aware of where does self-worth come into the mix? Because sometimes, the things that we invest in are through a lens where we don't think we're worthy. We don't think we're valuable. Oh, I don't want to spend this. Maybe hopefully you have the money, because why should I invest this money in myself or invest this money in my life, even if it's a little bit of money? So it's like, how do you start to shift your relationship with the material world this birthday season? And again, maybe you're feeling very philosophical, especially if you're celebrating your birthday this week, and it's all about the bigger picture. How do you lift up your eyes? And do keep in mind that Jupiter, which is a relationship planet for you, and even a planet that talks about home and family, if I'm doing my astrology right, yes. So there's these deeper themes that are happening right now for Virgo about intimacy, vulnerability, trust. Can I let somebody in? Can I trust somebody? Even talking about the things that make you really uncomfortable, because that's where the magic happens. I'm saying this as Scorpio. But there might be some deeper emotional themes coming up for Virgo right now, but it's just part of that, trying to come into this new year and make sure that the people that are in your life are really a good, solid part of your life. Libra. Libra, so Virgo season for you represents the end of your personal zodiac wheel. And then when you get to the end of your zodiac wheel, it's kind of like you've gotten to the end of December and you're sort of waiting for the new year to begin. And maybe that's not the best analogy because in December we're all partying, but you've sort of reached the end of something. So it's not about new beginnings. It's sort of that reflection, going within, asking yourselves the deep questions. What did I achieve? And it doesn't have to be like a real world achievement. It could be something on an emotional level. What did I achieve? Like, what has this past year brought for me? And so Libra, you're maybe feeling a little quiet, maybe even a little existential and philosophical. Your planet, Libra, is Venus, and it's reached the end of it's reached the end of Leo this week. Maybe you had a little bit of some shakeups last week, but starting at the beginning of next week, so September 5th, Venus is going to go into Virgo, and it's going to be in Virgo until the end of September. So this is a season that will even highlight even more the need to go within, the need to reflect, the need to meditate, sleep, rest, recharge, and also search for deeper meaning within. Sort of the irony to all that is that the energies are also pointing to your sign. So Mercury is in Libra, and Mercury will be in Libra for a while because we will have the retrograde next week. And so it's like you're dreaming, you're resting, but then you also have one foot in a new chapter, a new beginning. And maybe there is the discomfort of having to, be, starting something, but at the same time ending something, being stuck in the middle of something. And so maybe that's going to require some patience from you, and don't rush ahead too much because Mercury will go retrograde next week on September 9th. So maybe Mercury is just doing a little bit of a fact finding, a little scouting for whatever this new chapter is, so that you can go forward, maybe, lighten the load, because when you reach the end of your personal zodiac, it's time to lighten the load. It's like the things that you don't want to bring with you into this next big chapter of your life. And this next big chapter is just for the coming year. Scorpio. How you doing, Scorpio? So this is a season where you've come off the high of Leo season. Leo is your career sign, and it's about being visible, which is ironic because everybody thinks Scorpio is this sign that's not super visible, but Leo is its 10th sign. So it sort of shows us that Scorpio does some of its best work when it's out in the world, when it gets to be in positions of power and authority, when it takes on responsibilities, and it gets to shine there. So now the sun is in Virgo, and Virgo is Scorpio's 11th sign. So we're now looking towards the future. We've already sort of hit the peak for the calendar year, your personal zodiac, and like, what's next? What do you want to achieve in the next personal cycle, personal year? Who are your friends, who are your community? How does it connect to the greater whole, social themes, social causes, social issues? And because it is Virgo, how are you of service to your community, your friends, and even the collective? Do keep in mind that Mars, which is your planet, it's in Gemini. It'll be in Gemini until March 25th. That's a long time. That's going to be 7 months where the energy of your sign is concentrated into Gemini. So on one hand, it is a deeply curious time for you, Scorpio, a time for you to read and to take in new ideas and new perspectives and to move and to travel. But at the same time, Gemini is your 8th sign. So a lot of that exploration and travel and learning is coming from within. It's coming from the psyche. It's a little bit of a heavy emotional time for Scorpio. It's ironically, that's the space, the 8th, where Scorpio does its best work. It's where Scorpio has to go into its underworld. I know that's a big word, but I know, Scorpio, you can do it, because it's in that space that the transformation work happens. And having Gemini as the 8th sign will sort of remind Scorpio that it's a sign that has to find the balance between the light and the dark within. The beauty of being a Scorpio is that we always know that there is darkness within. It's just a part of life. We can't we can't make it go away. But what we can do is we can put it in its balance and put it in its order. And that's where Gemini talks about the duality of life, and where Libra, which is Scorpio's 12th sign, we have to find that spiritual balance within. It's part of our karmic work as a sign. But so that said, speaking of karmic work, you have Mercury of the new, the energies of the new moon pointing towards your 12th. And so this is the perfect time to plan for the future, yet at the same time, detach, let go, to rest, to release the things that you don't want to bring with you into this next cycle. And then, of course, as we get into Libra season later in September, this is the time that we prepare for Virgo season, not Virgo season, your birthday season, and to rest and to retreat and to let go. But I think that there's a little bit of a philosophical feel right now and a lot of deep internal work that's happening for Scorpio. Sagittarius. So Virgo season for you, the sun has reached the highest point in your personal astrology chart. So it's about your career, it's about your professional life, your public life, your worldly duties and responsibilities. And so Virgo is really asking you to show up right now. And you have, the sun is in Virgo, you have Mars over in Gemini. Gemini is your relationship sign. So it's a lot of things going on with other people in your life. Probably a lot of movement. And then you have Mercury, the ruler of this Virgo season. It's in Libra, which is your 11th. So there's a sense of like your professional life, but at the same time also planning, like looking ahead, where do you want to go? What's, maybe you're networking, maybe you need to sort of strategize. Virgo is really a good sign for strategizing, and to talk to people in your field to be like, okay, what's the best way to do this? Like, where do I need help? Where do I need community and support in my life right now? But with the opposition, to Jupiter, which is your planet Sagittarius, it's in your 5th, and it will be in the 5th up until the end of October. It will retrograde back into your 4th. We'll talk about that next month. But this is a time for you to really get into the things that are your creativity, your self-expression, and just your friendly reminder that creativity is not just art. Creativity is where you connect the spark of light, of life within you, and you put it into something. Not to sound too spiritual and esoteric, but the light, the spark is the spark of the divine that lives inside of us. And trust me, it can go out. I mean, it never truly goes out, but that's where we feel burnt out. We're lacking passion. We're lacking life. We're lacking that joie de vivre. And how do you get back to that? So there's sort of this, push and pull this week between the future and where you want to go, and maybe your vision for the future, but also you and that sort of creative energy that you need in order to fuel that creative vision for the future. Then again, it's Virgo season, so it's about doing the work, showing up, being of service to other people, and sort of showing up in your professional life. Capricorn. So Capricorn, you are an earth sign, and Virgo season puts you in touch with the energies of earth. Virgo is an earth sign, just like you. Now, if we look at the earth signs as a whole, we have Taurus, which is about the fertility of earth. It's the first sign, it's the raw resource of earth. And then, Virgo is the sign of the harvest. It's a sign of taking everything that's been growing out of that fertile energy of Taurus and like reaping it. That's why Virgo season, certainly in the Northern Hemisphere, connects us to the harvest, whether it's harvesting wheat, harvesting grapes, preparing for the winter season. And then there's Capricorn, which is about the larger structures of our life. It's sort of, what are we all building this towards? What are our responsibilities, the roles, the commitments? Where do we have to show up? Where do we have to be on time? And we have to honor the things that we all have to do in life. So Virgo season is talking about, taking your vision and looking outward. It's about truth and meaning. It's about your convictions. It's about your faith, but it's also about the things that you sort of stand for in the world. Maybe there's even some deeper themes about judgment and religion and legal matters. But this is a time for you to sort of look up in the world and sort of take all these earthly energies that you've been building and creating from, and sort of, where are you navigating your life towards? I think there's a sense of, in the ninth and the 10th, we have to align ourselves towards something. But when the ninth is involved, is mission. Like, what's your mission in life, and how do you align your earthly life towards that mission? Do keep in mind, Capricorn, that Saturn continues to be in your second sign of money and income, material resource, material stability. Continue to balance the books, continue to show Saturn, your planet, that you know exactly the true value and worth of things, including yourself. Virgo season, the Virgo new moon is pointing towards your career. And I will say that with Mercury coming up to a retrograde on September 9th, pay attention to the things that are happening in your professional life. Mercury turns retrograde. It doesn't negate it. Retrograde is a shift in energy. It's no longer active. It's now receptive. There's a need to internalize, pull back, reflect, analyze. Mercury retrograde is perfect for analysis. It's not an active Mercury. It is an analytical Mercury. And so this is a time for you to sort of pull back and analyze, what is it about your professional life or your career or the role that you play in the world? Is it mission aligned? Do you need to recalibrate? Aquarius. So just your friendly reminder, Aquarius, that Saturn continues to be in your sign, where it has been since December of 2020, although it did make a little bit of a jump into Aquarius in March of 2020 to the very beginning of July of 2020. So your life, Aquarius, exists in these 2.5, 3-year chapters. That's just the natural rhythm of your astrology, because you're what's called Saturn ruled. So 2020, 2021, and 2022 are all about new beginnings, but these sort of serious new beginnings through the lens of Saturn. And Saturn's like, okay, you're starting a journey. It's time to prepare for this next big journey. Now, you'll have a big shift next March. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself. But Virgo season for you is about, oh my God, I have to do the quick math. It's about your 8th sign. So there's been a lot of things going on for Aquarius. And I don't think they've all been easy. I think Aquarius has this reputation for being this kind of zany, futuristic sign, and maybe there's some truth to that, but we can't forget that Aquarius is ruled by Saturn, and Saturn is not zany, even though modern Aquarius is ruled by Uranus. But there's the Saturn-Uranus square last year, this year, and so it's a lot of push and pull at Aquarius's life. And one of the pushes and pulls is Uranus is in the 4th, so there's a lot of emotional stuff that's coming up, and maybe this is emotional stuff that Aquarius is typically either cut off from or tries to overanalyze this stuff. But with the Virgo new moon, it's saying you have to take care of your emotional health. You have to face yourself, and this is the natural part of your personal astrology where you're going through what's called the 8th. Life is testing you. Life has to test you. If life didn't test you, even if it's just for a day, then you wouldn't grow. So this is your time in your personal astrology to do a lot of growth and transformation. With that, in mind, Mercury, the new moon, is pointing towards your 9th. So it's like, well, what does this all mean? Like, why am I here? Like, trying to put meaning and truth on everything that you're going through. But it's also a time when you have to really take everything you've been through the past few years, and it has to add up to something. It has to mean something. It has to shape your sense of truth, your philosophy, and even your faith. Finally, Pisces. So Virgo season for you is about relationships. So that Virgo new moon gave you your yearly reset on relationships. It's not your only time for relationships, but certainly this is the season for relationships. Relationships mean a lot of different things. It's not just romantic, committed relationships, partnership, marriage. It's also, how do you connect, interact, and socialize people? And this is the season for you to get your friendly reminder that you can't do it alone. Life needs other people, because other people help us to create balance in our life. And Virgo being Virgo and you being Pisces, it talks about how we show up for other people, service, how do we take care of people, how do we caretake people, and maybe sometimes the problematic experiences that can come up when we do caretaking. With Mercury over in Libra, and Libra is your 8th sign, this is relationships, but also relationships through the lens of intimacy, vulnerability, power, control, trust, and sometimes the, let's say, not helpful side of relationships. And how do you refine that sense of Virgo refinement, a relationship in your life? And maybe that means doing the deep work, the digging, the emotional transformation, and sometimes even the tough work that comes with having that energy of the 8th in your astrology. Jupiter is your planet. It's in your 2nd, so money, income, material stability continues to be a focus. But there's this push and pull with the opposition this week about, can I trust myself? Can I trust somebody else? Can I open up to somebody else? Can I reveal myself to somebody? And maybe that's what has to happen. Maybe that's where the magic happens, that's where true transformation can happen. Or maybe there's a need to set some healthy boundaries. Always can have some healthy boundaries happening. But that is your look at the astrology this week. This is your special parental travel edition as we come to the end of August and go into September. I have to decide if I'm going to do next week's show live from the closet. It's not a closet, or do it as a recorded. So stay tuned. But yeah, this has been your look at the astrology of August 29th through September 4th, 2022. Again, special travel edition. Thank you all for dealing with a hot mess of lighting and audio, and having just spent 4 hours on I-95. If you know even what that means, it's not my favorite stretch of road to travel from New Jersey to Maryland. So again, to go back to something that I said earlier about my Saturn masterclass, the early registration is ending on September 1st. I do hope that you can join me. I already have, I think, like a few, half dozen people, and we're gonna have a really great, it's not a class, it's a work, and it's a step-by-step pathway through each of the 12 zodiac signs in order to truly open up to something and to understand our own blueprint more deeply, and to understand, hopefully, life, incarnation, and the cosmos more deeply, and even our own karma, because Saturn does talk about karma. So thank you all for joining me. And if you watch me on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Spotify as well, you can book a consultation with me. I know a lot of you are my clients who are on the live, or even show up and you book a consultation like, oh, I watch you every week. And it's weird talking to you. I know it's weird talking to me too. But follow me online at empoweringastrology.com. And until next week, take care. Bye.